all of our students are doing right now. They're like in heaven. They're in heaven. And thank you all for coming one more day to the students and getting in the zone with us here. It is such a good day. Hey, and I know we got a lot of winter coats in here.
I'm gonna try and share this.
Hey, time to top. We gotta watch the budget. No heat. We'll survive. I don't think we're gonna be here all that long, are we, Jess? I don't know. And I wasn't even supposed to talk. This is really Jess's show, and she's awesome as our teaching and learning director. So anyways, she asked if I wanted to say hi, and I did.
I don't know what to do about
Just thank you so much.
Tell her to grab the link off the admin meeting note.
We can't even say it enough, right? You are being the magic happens every single day in our district because of all of you, and we can't thank you enough. So, we talked a lot about our continuous improvement plan when we met in late August, right? That's our game plan, our approach. And it's really grounded in student learning, right? That's why we're here, student learning, climate and culture, a multi-tier system of supports, and our operations, right? All the pieces that support what we do, right? It's a really good game plan, I think. And if we can execute that game plan, we're going to do great things for our students, and that's why we're here. I was able to get out to probably 6 or 7 different rooms this morning, and I was just beaming with pride in what I was able to observe, the professionalism, the intellectual discussion, just talking about what we do every day. And we don't have the opportunity to do that very often. We're trying to set ourselves up in a system where we do that on a regular basis, right? We all have really 2 things in common. Well, 3. One is we're all teachers and educators. 2, are the students that we educate are in common with us. And 3, the content that we teach, we have common with other people too. And we, in lots of our PLCs, we're able to focus on the students, but we don't get as much time to talk about the content and the curriculum side of things. And when I was researching the district before I was fortunate enough to be able to be offered this position as superintendent, the one thing I was able to see is that there's been a lot of work for the last 3 or 4 years on great instructional strategies to teach our students, right? And lots of the work that's grounded in our Princeton paradigm. And that's part of our continuous improvement plan too, right? Our Princeton paradigm. And we're going to continue to move that work forward. Okay, but our hope too is because we spent 3 years, 4 years of lots of staff development, lots of work on that, that's starting to become really standard work, right? There's things that we do that just at some point become just the way we do business, right? And we hope that will continue on. Our focus today is not necessarily the instructional strategies, but it's not how we teach, it's what we teach. That's the curriculum side of things, and the scope and sequence, and trying to ensure that there's not any gaps or redundancies, and trying to ensure that our students' experience from one class to the next isn't completely different, right? We can't have our students have the educational lottery, right? Based upon whatever teacher they get, depends on what kind of experience that child's going to get. Our students deserve better, and our parents deserve better. And as a system, that's what curriculum's all about, is talking to each other to ensure that our students have a common experience where we can guarantee that they're going to get these essential set of standards when they walk out of each grade level, or they walk out of our doors as graduates, that we can ensure that they have these certain things. And it's not going to be based upon, if you have 12 different classrooms in a grade level, we can't have 12 completely different experiences. We have to have some common things that are important throughout. So that's what we're talking about. We're hoping to come up with a system that will stand the test of time and will be sustainable. The other piece I'm well aware of is that our district and you all have participated in things of talking about curriculum and writing curriculum and mapping curriculum, but we've been there. It's all in different places, right? And we don't have a standard format in which we've done that. So we really want to find a way of when we do business, it's put in a spot that it's going to be able to stand the test of time, and in a place where, you know, it doesn't really matter who the teacher is, the student experience and the what we teach is going to be the same, right? So it's not, we're not dependent on the person, we have a system in place, right? The person's really going to be able to help focus on the instructional strategy piece. So Jess gave me 30 seconds, how'd I do? I told Jess said, you know, I don't have my notes. And she said,
my notes are lost in this building somewhere right now.
And she said that right before I took the mic, and I said, I have no clue what I'm going to say. Who knows?
So you're getting the real deal both ways.
Jess,
all right.
Our great teaching and learning director. Thank you very much.
All right, so we're starting with the turn and talk, and you can choose whichever question you want. Before you do the turn, I'm going to give full 60 seconds to your own thinking. So you choose which question you want to answer with your partner, and you think about it, and then I'll say it's time to do the turn and talk. All right? You choose one of these two questions. In the past 5 years, what are some things that have changed for the better in my own practice? Or, in what ways has student learning at Princeton Public Schools actually better than it was 5 years ago? You're doing 60 seconds of reflection. That is how long 60 seconds is. So I'm going to put 3 minutes on the timer. Make sure that your neighbor and you each get equal time to respond. Go ahead. All right, thank your neighbor. Give your neighbor a high five and tell them they're awesome. All right. Can I have you back, please? All right, I wanted to start that way because I want us to take a moment to stop and look at where we are. Because where we are is very different from where we were 5 years ago. Agree or agree? Agree, and it's better. Agree or agree? Woo! So I remember a day when standards were new and completely overwhelming, and I had a conversation with a teacher not from Princeton Public Schools, from somewhere else. I had a very difficult conversation about why she knew the standards were absolutely wrong because it was not what she taught her third graders. We are not anywhere near that place, right? I do remember a time in Princeton Public Schools when we were struggling together through why would I write a learning target? And why would I need to have one for every lesson? That was a learning curve, and look at where we are now, right? We have done a lot of professional work, and I want to honor how far we've come with the effort that we've put into it. Because, friends, we have come a long way, baby. And I want you to feel good about that. Because at Princeton Public Schools, this is a really, really good place to teach and to learn. I really want you to give another high five to your neighbor and tell them they're super awesome. All right, so we never ever stop getting better, right? So really the role of the district continuous improvement plan, so the thing everyone is going to get so sick of Ben talking about and Jess talking about and principals talking about and leadership teams talking about, the continuous improvement plan, the plan we have in place that says this is where we're going together next, drives what happens from here on out, right? So there are 3 goals that come from the district student learning team. Number 1 is that we'll move toward a guaranteed coherent and viable curriculum, and we're going to spend some time today unpacking that and making sure we're all in agreement with what that means. The second one is that we'll continue to deepen our use of Princeton Paradigm as our instructional model. So yes, that doesn't go away. We continue to get better and better at doing that. And that we will foster authentic literacy across content and areas. In other words, we understand it matters what kids are thinking about, what they're talking about, what they're writing about, what they're reading about, is the content that they're learning, right? So there is an easier way to state all of that. For simplicity, it's all about, sorry, focusing on less. Oh, darn it. What we teach, how we teach it, and making sure that's what kids are thinking about. Authentic literacy. Simplest terms, we concentrate on knowing what we teach, how we teach it, and that we're making sure that the kids are doing the reading, the writing, the thinking, the speaking. All right? So we do accomplish more when we focus on less, and I'm hoping that these things are resonating with you as teachers, is that, yeah, we should be talking about our content and what we teach. In fact, the district student learning team that together is reading this book called Focus, and it is all about, really how those three things are the things that matter most when we're talking about what students are able to learn. It's an ILP option.
Hey, Jeff.
Yeah.
Can you move to the front so that the live stream can pick you up better?
Yes. So if that is true, that we can do far more when we focus on less, let's get even more specific and just look at that first one. And now this is not just coming from research, this is coming from teachers too. I've heard things like we need time to unpack these new science standards. We need time to talk vertically with teachers from different grade levels. We need time just to talk about what we are teaching, right? So this is when we declare to the world, friends, we are taking that time to talk about the what we teach. And as we do that, what we're technically working on is this movement toward guaranteed, coherent, and viable curriculum. So let's get specific about what those three things mean. Guaranteed and viable are two parts here. Guaranteed means we agree what every teacher in the content area is going to make sure kids get. So these are the most important things. Some places call them essential standards, some places call them power standards, some places call them promise standards. Princeton promise sounds good to me, but we'll let you decide. So right now we're calling them essential standards, but are we in agreement about what is most important that our kids learn before they leave this class? And do we have and have we intentionally planned enough time in so that they could actually get it? That's the viable piece. So we know content standards are different for different content areas, right? Quite frankly, if standards was a person, we would have a difficult relationship, right? Because the communication is wonky. Like sometimes standards are like so prescriptive and exact as micromanaging. And sometimes our standards are so vague, it's like, I don't even know what you're trying to tell me. Right? So we do need some clarity, and that's where your expertise comes in, because you are the content experts. So making sure you're arm in arm with other content experts and we agree on what this means and what is most important, and we slot enough time to make it happen, is a huge discussion. That is guaranteed and viable. We are guaranteeing these kids will know this before we send them to the next grade. You can't do that with all the standards. Social studies is the worst. Social studies standards, Dr. Marzano says you actually need 8 more years to teach them to the depth which they are written. If that is true, we have experts in every classroom, right? If that is true, that you could not physically do what is written, What do you think teachers do? They pick and choose. They figure out what's most important and they start chucking other stuff, right? And if one teacher does that on their own, brilliant as they are, might it be different than the brilliant teacher next door? Yeah, we are human. We are going to choose different things unless we have this deep conversation about the standards and agree what's most important. So step number one, if we're really going to do guaranteed and viable, and every building is really in a different place in this process, but I want to lay out the whole process so you see where we're going. So step number one would be to have deep conversations about the standards and really be in agreement about what's most essential. So what that means is not a couple of teachers tell us what are the math essentials, and a couple of teachers tell us what's the ELA essentials, and okay, we're gonna have to have people in place to do some work, but it can't be just from some of the teachers who teach content. We have to be in agreement. So when we do a process to identify essential standards, and I think we have 2 buildings that are working on this later today, that it really is every teacher at that grade level, what do you think? Every teacher at the next grade level, what do these kids gotta have coming in order to be successful here? What do the test specs say? And those achievement level descriptors that help us understand exactly what that standard means. What do those say? And let's do some deep analysis before we name those essential standards. So that's what that process looks like. Second, we would do the scope and sequence. So what happens if we identify the essential standards and we can't possibly do it justice in our time? Because we identified them first. Now we're scope and sequencing them. What if we run into trouble? You gotta go back and have deeper discussion. All right, so it's not a one time and we're done and this is it and we don't ever have to talk about that again kind of thing. It is an ongoing conversation. Third thing you would do is talk about success criteria. So you would talk about what would student work look like if they really got this. And we would have student samples that this is what it looks like at meets, this is what is above and beyond for this grade level, and this is what I'm looking for when kids are creating stuff. After we know what meets and exceeds looks like, that's when we create the common assessment. So common assessments, please don't limit that to mean tests. It's performance activities, it's discussion, it's debate, it's getting evidence out of the kid's mind so we can hear it and see it, so we know what they do understand and don't understand. When we do this methodically and in this progression, we should have a very good foundation to say, all right then, let's do lesson planning. Now we can build lessons. When we do lesson planning, there should be some things at a grade level that are consistent classroom to classroom, and we call those lesson plan foundations. So things like learning targets and the progression in which we teach, those should be common. I also want to be very clear that we do not want to take away the art of teaching. So not every classroom is cookie cutter, but every classroom agrees these are the most important, this is how much time we should spend on it, these are the learning targets, and these are the evidences I'm after. Okay. So there are some things about the lesson plan that would be common room to room. We also create what's called a resource repository, meaning we have good stuff we use in lessons. I found this great video when the kids watched it, and this is what happened. Or I had a speaker in, and this is what the kids learned. So there is a repository of great ideas that we're finding work really well that you can't keep to yourself. You gotta share with your colleagues. This is what worked. And then they have that as an option in their classroom as well. It is teachers who decide at what point something moves from resource repository, like an optional thing that works well, to this works so well, every kid has to have it. So teachers decide when something moves from optional to a lesson plan foundation. Does that make sense? Will you turn and summarize that to your neighbor? All right, I'll ask for you back, please. So in this moment, there are some things that are standard across all classrooms, and there are some things that teachers are doing and experimenting and learning from and sharing with each other, and we decide when some of those things become standard work or not, right? And get this one, that never ends. It is what being a good teacher is, and it's alongside your colleague arm in arm, so we're not just good teachers on our own, we are good teachers together. So this is the phrase for that. We move from professional identity, personal professional identity, to collective efficacy. That's how we make that happen, when we do this stuff together and we find what works better and better and better and better together. That's what makes the difference. So let's talk about coherence for a moment, and I've built in a little activity to help us understand what coherence means. All right, so for this activity, here's the directions part. You need to put on your hand which building you are from. So if you are from Family Center, you are a... If you're from high school, what are you? Yep, you get this? Okay, make sure your neighbor knows what that means. Make sure they understand the key. Take 10 seconds. All right, does everybody know their number? All right, you will display your number on your hand, and you will find 3 people with different numbers. So will you go partner with 3 people from 3 other buildings? got a whole bunch of 2s and 3s over here. All right, so if you do not have a group at this point, just grab the one closest to you. You're a bonus. All right. Are you ready for your next instruction? Give me a hand up when you're ready for your next instruction. All right, so your task as a team is to explain how you would find the answer to your assigned question. You have to explain how you would go about finding this answer as a team. All right, everybody in each section is going to get a different question, so you got to wait for it. So anybody on this aisle and this way, including people up top, you get question A. Your question is, how has teaching authors' purpose changed from grade level to grade level in our district? Because we teach it at a heck of a lot of grade levels. You have to go about explaining how you would figure this out. That's your question. All right, anybody right here to the middle, to the exit sign in the middle? All right, raise your hands if you're in this group. Here's your question. What do our students learn about the Holocaust? How would you figure that out right now in our system? From the exit sign to this aisle. Ready for your question? Which novels do our kids read more than once? And this one, you get D. How often do our kids engage in classroom discussion or debate as their method of assessment?
Something fired up this morning. What have the science teachers been told?
In terms
My
of
email from Katie says that all the teachers have been encouraged to go to this workshop and that there should be a typical communication.
so that is nothing that came from this morning. Not a topic of this morning.
Okay, I got it this morning.
Okay.
Because I have a clue.
I am
They asked
wondering
for
if
free
it's
to go.
coming from because people have gone into test experience and more stated that a priority for international memory is content training.
That's not Lori's.
I know. And that
Ben
is what
has,
she said.
that's not Ben's muscle. It's not been your muscle. So we got a little bit of a fight.
How many many more minutes do you need to figure this out? Give me a number of minutes. 0, 1, 2. I got some zeros. Mostly zeros. Good, you figured it out. Perfect. Who wants to tell me how they're going to figure this out? Give me your hand. Seriously, people who said 0, you need no more time to figure this out. Who will tell me how you're going to go about figuring this out? All right, Sarah, will you state the question and then how you're going to go about answering the question?
We had question C, which novels do our students read more than once? We said there were 2 directions we could take. We could go to PLCs and ask for a list of novels from the teachers and just cross-reference, or we could create a Google form and send it out to all teachers and just say fill in the novels, and then we could figure it out from there.
That's the question.
Oh, do we have a follow-up question on that answer?
Yeah.
Okay.
So how do you know like what exactly they teach about that novel? Because what if I teach Wonder, but you also teach Wonder at the middle school, and you teach it differently? Where would we get that information?
The question says, which novels do our students read more than once? Not what we're teaching. That's a good question. That would be a deeper discussion.
All right, well, that wasn't the question, to be fair, but might this uncover another question? And I also do have a follow-up question. How much time do you think it would take to get a reasonably accurate answer to this question?
Depends on how many reminders I need to send out.
So it'd take a little bit of work and maybe a lot of time and some effort for sure. All right, who's got a different question to answer and how you go about answering it? Okay, for Holocaust. Will you share? Okay.
We went for the Holocaust question, we went to the curriculum tracker that the high school worked on over the summer, and went to social studies, but then somebody also said it's brought up in one of the English classes too. So you could file your way through that and 10 million links that are in there.
How much time do you think?
A lot.
A lot of time? Okay, so we're thinking it's possible. We do know at the high school, each course has like a course description and what's covered in it. So if we followed each link to each course, we could uncover where in social, and we have some awareness that we've got something going on in ELA. So I'm not sure how many classes that is total. 10?
What about middle school?
What about middle school? Does anybody in middle school teach Holocaust? Oh, we do have some. Okay. So one way we could figure out this question is get all 250 teachers in this room and ask questions like this, and we could get it answered pretty quick. It would just take all of us. Or the longer process would be follow the links into each course. All right. Mass email, hoping that someone read it. I have never sent an email like that and didn't get all of the replies I needed. I got all the information. All right, let's do one more. Who wants to go about author's purpose? Because really we do this in a lot of grade levels. How would you go about getting information from, I don't know, 10 teachers per grade level times 8 levels? Jay's going to look at the standards and assume that is exactly how we teach it.
No, but it says how to teach it, change from grade level to grade level. So that's how I would interpret that question.
So we're going to have a teacher go to the standards, that strand, and analyze the difference in grade level per each strand. How long to do that, well? And is that guaranteed that that's what we teach differently? Oh, darn it. So how do you find out what we actually teach? We do have to talk to each of those grade levels and probably each teacher in the grade level to really know for sure, right? All right, do you get what I'm trying to say here?
I have the standard.
We do not, Jessica does not, Ben does not, a grade level teacher does not.
We do not have an easy way to find out what our actual student experience is from grade to grade or room to room. It's not an easy task. We could do some data mining, it would take us a long time, we could have a fairly accurate answer, but wow, huh? That is not realistic for us to do. So if you will thank your partners and move back to your seat, let's talk about how we could do this. All right. So we have just a short time left together. Let's talk about coherence. So that coherent word, all that it means is that our content makes great sense as a kid travels through grade levels K-12. I did not put pre-K on here. Why is that? So it wasn't I forgot them. This was let me think through this. And should it be K or should it be pre-K? Not all of our children go to pre-K. 60% of our children do. And what we do in pre-K prepares them for K, but not all of our kids get that. Okay? So what we can start to guarantee is what happens K-12, and knowing that pre-K is linked in. All right.
And Jessica?
Yes.
Not all of our pre-K kids get all content areas.
Correct.
Such as music.
Yep.
Right.
True. Okay, so what we can say is we are really going to work on our coherence from K-12 so that the experience as a kid travels through the system makes good sense. In order to do that, there's 3 pieces here. Teachers would really unpack the difference from grade level to grade level, so we'd be very, very specific about what is the value add at 3rd grade on this standard. What is it I have to teach them that's different at 4th grade than it was in 3rd? Okay, that's the part I have to emphasize, because the rest we might need to review, but it probably isn't going to take up the bulk of the teaching and learning time. The new stuff should. Right? So we really understand the difference between grade levels. We would also know what happens in other grade level classrooms in terms of student experience, like how deep have they already gone? What stuff have they already been exposed to in terms of resources? What videos have they watched? What experiments have they done? What speakers have they heard? Like, we would know what they've already done before they got to us in this content. And, get this one, this is going to be a mind bender. We would also know what the rest of their day looks like. Right, Shannon?
Mind blown.
Like, how in the world do we do that? We would know if we're teaching the Holocaust and social studies, it might be a good opportunity to link in a lesson in, I don't know, ELA or, whatever. We could do some cross collaboration that would help students make even more sense of the content. So this seems like an insurmountable task the way we're set up now, right? The way we are set up now, it would be unrealistic to expect teachers to know what's going on in all the other classrooms in the joint, right? So let me talk for a second about tools. When a skilled craftsman has the right tools, can they be even more effective? Right, so I'm thinking about, before I had this job, before I went to Princeton Public Schools, part of what I did was own a retreat. And it had a big old yard and the boats and so many rooms and sheets to wash and walls to paint. And one of the things I had to do every year was paint the outdoor furniture. So I got 3 options: brush, can, or my friends, industrial paint sprayer. Which do you choose? There's a little bit of learning curve with the industrial paint sprayer, but it moves a 4-hour job to a 1-hour job, like that, plus a half-hour cleanup. So there's learning curve and there's new stuff you have to do, but the tool itself is the right tool for that job. So there are right tools out there, my friends, for helping teachers know that, like this. For saying, do kids already read this book? No. Oh, yes, they do in 7th grade, right there. So our district student learning team is working and identifying a tool that could make this kind of thing ever so much easier, actually doable. So as we move toward guaranteed, coherent, and viable curriculum, understand that we have some things in motion in individual classrooms and individual buildings already, and we are going to invest time and the right tools to make this ever so much more effective. So the process itself, this, for those who like visuals, this is just a review slide. Of course, we start with standards, and what we teach is standards-based, not standards referenced or whatever other word you want to come up with, but it's standards-based, it comes from the standards. Curriculum is our actual taught curriculum, meaning this is what we actually do with kids in classrooms. So it is a living, breathing document. It is not something we do one year and then we put on the shelf because we did it and we check it off and we're good to go. This is recording what actually is working the best and sharing it with all of our colleagues. We do the instruction based on what we agreed is our best plan, and then we watch that student learning. So the assessments, whether we're talking formative or summative assessments, will give us the evidence we need to know on whether this is the best plan or we want to tweak the plan. We will watch that student learning to analyze how well it worked, and then we will have input from ourselves and other stakeholders in terms of what do we want to keep, what do we want to change, and get this, we will even build in time to let that happen. What? Systematizing improvements! So this is where we're going together. I want to reiterate, we are good at Princeton Public Schools, and this is how we take our next step together. This is good to great. All right, I wanted to bring this last slide up. This is something that showed up last year in multiple sessions, including like the leadership academies and here all together. And it just comes out of John Hattie's work, the research that says what are the things that we do that make the most impact or the effect size of different things. And just so you know, I haven't changed this in any way other than the orange highlighting. So things like concentrating on MTSS should help us. Student-teacher relationships, they help us, right? But what I want to point out is that collective teacher efficacy, when we move from individual professionalism to collective efficacy, these systems, these conversations, these deep conversations that we have about what we teach is what helps make that happen. And we move from I know that what I do helps kids, I know that what I do impacts their learning, to I know that what we do together matters even more. All right, so I have 5 minutes left and I'm not going to use them. Will you turn to your neighbor and give them your best aha from this morning? And then tell them what your major learning is.